Hi, folks. Welcome. We're going to get started with our confab. All right. So if you haven't already, a few housekeeping items to start. Please add your name and organization in the chat box. Everybody's cameras and mics are off to allow us more bandwidth. If you lose your internet connection, reconnect using the link that was emailed to you. And just so everyone knows, we are both live streaming and recording this event, which is a first, and we'll share the link with you afterwards. All right, so the confab. The confab is the CLA's signature event with 2 hours of networking, presentations from local literacy experts, opportunities to collaborate with fellow changemakers from across the city. Hey, Jimmy, can I get the next slide, please? Great, thanks. So for this month's theme of EdTech tools, however, we're not only hosting our first ever virtual confab, we're also switching to a format of all member presentations. We hope this monthly space will inspire, engage, and activate you to address the literacy issues facing our city. And we thank you for being a part of our longest running program, which is the confab. So let's take a look at the agenda. Today, we're going to give you an exclusive look into the diverse work of 5 of our members. We have Innovare, Social Innovation Partners, Classroom Inc., Newsguard, STRUT Learning, and Youtoring with us. And we're going to start, before we get to their lovely presentations, with a few announcements. So first, we have a CLA announcement about our swag store. So if you haven't already been on there, go ahead and go to chicagoliteracyalliance.org/shop, or there's a button in the menu bar of our website. We love our new designs. Our whole team has been buying them. We have these beautiful t-shirts, sweatshirts. They're made out of really nice material. We have adorable baby onesies that say "Read to Me," and all this is available in a lot of different colors and sizes. So please take a look. And yeah, those were all designed by our very talented marketing manager, Usman Khan. So a round for him. That's our CLA announcement for the day. As for member announcements, we have a slide from Literacy Works. Melanie, are you in the room? Great. Let's go ahead and turn on Melanie's mic so that she can talk about her slide, please.
Hi, Amber. Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're on.
Great. I just wanted to share out at Clear Language Lab, our whole focus is really helping make sure people understand the important things that everyone is trying to share with them, no matter what your sector. So if you have some information that you'd like just someone to take a second glance at, or a bigger project, we would be happy to talk with you more about that, especially things we know are shifting quickly, and it can be hard to sometimes put together clear communication. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'd be happy to chat.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Amber.
Thanks, Melanie. Our next slide is from the Chicago Humanists, which are actually one of our newest members. Do we have anyone? Ken says the onesies, the baby onesies, are not yet available in adult sizes. I'm very sorry about that. That's true. I'd like one. Okay. Do we have anyone from the Humanists on that would like to present this? Otherwise, I will. Doesn't look like it. All right. So they have a virtual event coming up for Christian Picciolini. An author who wrote a book, Breaking Hate, Confronting the New Culture of Extremism. It'll be an online book presentation and discussion, which is kind of their bread and butter. What Chicago Humanists specializes in is creating community and doing author events. So yeah, if you'd like to join, that's April 30th at 6:30 p.m. And I believe it's open to the public, so you can just go to their site and register. Next, we're going to open the floor up. If anybody else would like to make a member announcement, please let us know in the chat box now, and we can turn on your mic so you can share with the group. We encourage you to share upcoming events, webinars, opportunities, or if your organization has had a win this month, we'd love to celebrate you. So please share any of those updates as well. If you'd like to share anything, let us know in the box right now. Any announcements from anyone? Doesn't look like it. All right. Moving on. Next slide, please. Literacy in the social impact sphere. This is the first confab that we've done in this realm of the social impact sphere. So this year we decided to focus on 4 spheres in which the work of our members takes place. The first was cultural sphere, second was home and community, third is social impact, and the next one will be education and educators. Each quarter we spend 3 months discussing root causes and avenues to improvement. This month is our first focusing on social impact sphere since last month's confab was postponed to a later date. And the question we are trying to answer with this quarter of confabs is, how can organizations support people's ability to learn to read and write? But as is our tradition at this point, I'd like to welcome our Executive Director of the Chicago Literacy Alliance to give a brief keynote on today's theme and the current climate. Please welcome Ken Bigger. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Amber. Thanks very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I want to add my welcome to Amber's, and thank you all for participating in this month's first ever virtual confab. In some respects, a cause for celebration, but obviously a reflection of the times. For those of you new to the confab, it's our monthly program open to the public, which allows the CLA to foster greater collaboration and alignment among member organizations. It's also a time to build community, which is always a priority for us, but seems especially important now. We appreciate you being here with us and look forward to the time we can be with you again in the Literate Center. I hope that you all are doing well and staying safe in this pandemic. We know that it's a stressful time, and we are all kind of adjusting to new ways of doing things. At the CLA, we've been working to keep our members connected, supported, and informed. We've been hosting webinars, roundtable discussions, virtual town halls, and virtual happy hours. We are continuing to seek partnerships and resources to support our members and the sector as a whole, and to find new ways to support literacy. As we consider our work in literacy within the context of the pandemic, I think it's important to note that COVID-19 will have a disproportionate impact on those living with low literacy. It's already affecting those who are least able to work from home, who are least able to follow public health instructions or get access to quality, affordable care. And we know that it threatens to have a significant impact on children already lagging in reading, especially those for whom the digital divide is a daily and pressing concern. And while I think we're all aware of how much technology can offer to make things easier to connect, we know that there are some significant challenges in getting access to it. And frankly, it's true that it's not that this technology removes the need for literacy. In fact, it increases it. Access to technology really doesn't decrease the need for literacy, it increases it. The goalposts have significantly moved, and that's one of the reasons why this month's confab on innovative EdTech tools is especially timely, although obviously it was scheduled in advance of knowing that we were going to be facing these circumstances. I'm very grateful to our presenters this morning from Youtoring, Classroom Inc., Newsguard, STRUT Learning, and Innovare for their presentations, and we look forward to a productive, engaging, and indeed timely conversation. I'd invite everybody to, as we listen and participate in the conversation, to consider how we can continue to bridge the divide through greater access, like Wi-Fi and devices. How are we bridging the digital divide for people with low literacy, like making sites more user-friendly or providing voiceovers for instructions, etc.? How can we come together to bridge access how can we come together to bridge access to the actual technology for those who don't currently have it? Again, thank you all for being here this morning with us. Thank you for participating, and I look forward to our conversation. Back to you, Amber.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, so now for the main event. Before I introduce our presenters, though, I'd like to remind you that there will be a brief Q&A after each of our 5 member presentations. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please submit it in the Q&A box, not the chat box. There's a Q&A box at the bottom. And you can do that at any point during the current presentation. Once that presentation's done, we'll choose several of your questions and we'll pose them to the presenter for you. So our first presentation is from Nick Freeman, co-founder and president, and Ryan Carlson, senior strategist of Innovare Social Innovation Partners. They support the leaders of schools, districts, and networks, as well as nonprofit organizations. Their app, Inno, is an all-in-one data strategy and project management platform for education and nonprofit leaders. And they're currently offering a free trial of their app and support to schools and nonprofits to help them navigate the current situation. All right, welcome, Nick and Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah. All right. So I'll kick us off. Nick, thanks for controlling the screen for us. So yeah, Amber said it really well. Innovare is an education tech company that works with education leaders like school principals, district and network leaders, and education nonprofit leaders. And our app, Inno, is an all-in-one data strategy and project management platform for these education leaders. Here you can see some of our amazing CPS principals. And after working with over 100 education leaders across 10 states and in Mexico, we hear that they have a lot of the same pain points. Their systems are fragmented. They just don't have an easy way to access the data that they need. And so, for instance, if you're a school leader today, you have a system for grades, for test scores, for teacher quality rating systems, and probably a lot more. And then it's your job to triangulate that data and use it to make good decisions for your school or your organization. And a lot of times they don't have the teams or the time to do that, which results in numbers like we're seeing here, which is the state of education here in Illinois, which is just showing some numbers that are a little bit lower than we'd like to see, quite a bit lower than we'd like to see. In reading, only 35% of 8th grade students are at or above proficiency, while in math, the number is only 34%. So nationwide, it's not specific to Chicago or Illinois, but that's why we exist. And so that's why we are here. And what makes us unique at Innovare is we provide a platform for data, strategy, and project management all under one roof. So there's other solutions out there, maybe focusing on data visualization or maybe more consultative solutions focusing on the strategy or the project management pieces. But we are bringing all of that together to support our education leaders in our app and in one space where they can manage everything that they're doing. And speaking of, here is our app, Inno, and this is the data portion of our app. So this is where you can see, this is what we call our executive dashboard. And we have here basically a customizable way to view all of those systems that typically live everywhere. We unify those systems for you, and we reflect in your executive dashboard exactly those systems that you'd like to see front and center. And so you can see here, oh, sorry, Nick, that's okay. We have math and reading attainment percentages right next to a school's budgeting for Jefferson High School. And then, we say all the time, you need to go beyond the data, right? The data isn't going to do you much good if you're not using it to drive your strategy, and make sure that you're using it to plan ahead and kind of build a strong strategy. And so that's where we are able to work in the strategy in the same app, where you're able to identify your goals, create those cycles of implementation that get us to where we want to go. And you can see here that using Jefferson High School as an example, we're focusing on teacher retention rate and improving MAP testing scores. And we typically focus on between 3 to 5 goals with our clients to make sure that we're honing in and hitting the right areas. And if we dive a little bit deeper into that strategy, this is where the project management piece unfolds. And so again, within the teacher retention rate, you can see here for Jefferson High School, now they're able to assign actions and to different users, and to know when things are getting done and who's going to take care of each action. And this is how we're able to more or less just make sure that everything we set out to do, we are able to complete as scheduled. And so with that, Nick, I'll pass.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And good morning, everybody. Great to be here in this virtual space with you all. Hopefully everybody is healthy and safe. But just wanted to give you a little bit more context into how this work looks, and give you a specific example of one of our schools, high schools here in Chicago, Epic Academy, located in South Chicago. So I'm sure a lot of you can recognize this picture, all of the different data sources that are coming into our school buildings, whether it's Aspen, Academic Approach, Dean's List, Naviance, College Board, the Google Drive, all of these different systems. I'm sure either some of you might be a part of these organizations or, have worked with these organizations. But again, these are, disconnected data systems that are coming into school buildings that, are now responsible for how do we collate all of this information and make it into one system, right? So that's what we do, right? We allow for schools to, take all of those different data sources, bring them into our Inno system, visualize them in a manner that allows them to be actionable, and really take those insights into the strategy as Ryan was talking. So just to give you a quick view of the live demo of this work, here you can see at Epic Academy, here's a visualization mock-up of their dashboard where we're really focusing around the performance, SAT performance as it comes to their evidence-based reading and writing and their literacy scores. So we've built out systems and tools that allow for them to see trends on a very high level across the board where, we're looking at increases in, their GPA or their on-track statuses, being able to break these down into individual grade levels and grade bands, and then working all the way down into individual students, right? So when we're having those one-on-one conversations and goal setting around, their SAT performance or their academic approach performance, as we're thinking about how do we progress monitor the improvement of their literacy rates, these are the types of tools that we create for our partners. Again, all of these are specifically created for the use of our school buildings. There's a very human-centered design approach that we use to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our individual partners, not bringing in a cookie-cutter approach that is best fit for us, but what's best fit for them. As you can also see, we build in those key milestones, and at Epic we can kind of see the increase of ninth grade proficiency, right? And we see kind of those actions and the goals and the strategies that they're putting into place, really to allow us to kind of move through this process together. Again, all centralized in this one place that'll allow for them to see the impact of the work that they're doing, really validate the hard work that they're doing, and also to readjust when things aren't having the intended impact. We want to be sure that we're thinking about our resources, that time, money, and effort that we have to have that biggest bang for the buck. So just to kind of get back into our span across Chicago, we work with over 40 individual schools, along with from Dr. Jackson's office to the Office of Teaching and Learning through a lot of the initiative around MTSS. We've supported the rollout across the district. And here are just a few of our schools that are specifically honing in on that literacy approach and ensuring that we are having that impact. As we've heard earlier today, having low literacy rates is putting our communities at risk. Right. So how do we ensure that we're coming together as a collective, we're supporting our stakeholders to improve these outcomes? So that's what we're here at Innovare to do. And we know a lot of our organizations and probably a lot of folks on this call are a part of these schools as well. For us, collaboration is key. We want to be sure that we're putting forth our best effort and being very complementary to the other work that school partners have. So again, if you're an organization that may work in some of the schools that we're partnered with, we would love to kind of continue that conversation with you all as well to figure out how do we combine our efforts to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our schools and really scaling the impact in the work that we're doing. So again, my name is Nick Freeman, co-founder and president with Innovare. We appreciate your time this morning. Happy to answer any questions that may come up. And again, everybody have a very safe and I guess it's a little bit snowy out here in Chicago. So hopefully we get a little bit of sunshine by the end of the day. But again, we appreciate you all and thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Nick and Ryan, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, let's open up the floor to questions. We've got a lot of folks on this call. If you have a question, please add it to the Q&A box. Currently, we don't have questions. Let's see if we get some. I'd like to ask a question.
Of course.
I'd like to know how does this affect, how does having the software affect actual impact for folks? Like, does it actually help them increase their impact, or is it more about watching tracking things so that they can have a sense of what the numbers are and what their impact is and measuring?
Yeah, great question. So along with the technology, right, that's the bread and butter of our work. There's also the human-centered support that we provide along the way as well. So throughout, the onboarding process, we're, working with instructional leadership teams, we're working with building principals to understand the continuous improvement process and really increasing their toolkit as well. So whether it's, training around how to effectively, digest your data, right? Around like data literacy, understanding what SQRP is, right? Understanding what a growth percentile is versus, you know, an attainment percentile. We do a lot of support of understanding like the baseline and the measures, but then we're also supporting them in understanding how to create effective plans. I'm sure a lot of folks who have worked in Chicago public schools know the CIWP, the Continuous Improvement Work Plan, which is more of like a 2-year vision. You know, for us, we're looking at very short-term sprints. We want to run these kind of PDSA cycles, so that plan, do, study, act more quickly, right? So we can see that, you know, intended impact or not. So again, along with the tool, there is the human-centered support that we provide that allows for our partners to, you know, increase their toolkit as far as their continuous improvement work. Did that answer your question, Amber?
Yeah, it did. That was very helpful. Thanks.
Awesome, great.
I see there's a 3-month trial on your site, but ends today. Will that be extended for Inno? Yes, we're offering a free license to schools and nonprofits. The deadline will be extended to April 30th. Nice.
And I see a question just popped up in the Q&A. What is the cost per student? I'm going to kick this one over to Ryan just to talk about our different packages for schools.
Sure. So we have some different pricing packages that we offer schools, and it's not per student. It's actually, Nick kind of touched on those systems that we connect and that we unify for our users, whether, you know, it's a principal or whether it's a nonprofit user. And so the cost is actually associated with how many systems we're unifying for our users. And so currently they're split up by 7,500, 15,000, and 25,000 per year for our school level clients.
And just to add on to that, we also do support nonprofit organizations, right? So we do have a portfolio of nonprofits that, you know, their packaging begins at 25,000 on an annual basis. So such as the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City, Education Board Partners based out of DC, Bright Beginnings, which is an early childhood program, and then also for Next Generation Learning. Those are all of the kind of, or a few of the nonprofit organizations that we work with outside of Chicago. Again, you know, the CLA is, you know, a place where we definitely want to increase our collaboration. So, you know, knowing that there are CLA members that, you know, we could, you know, collaborate with. The trials are open to you all as well. So we kind of encourage you to apply if this looks like a tool that could support your organization.
Yeah, I was just going to add that really quickly is whether, you know, you're a school or a nonprofit, if you're curious, yeah, now is a great time to just be able to see the value for, you know, for yourselves and just make sure that it's a good fit. But we're happy to continue the conversations if you feel like you're ready to work with us. We'd love to kick it off during the trial period, and we know it's a, you know, time of recalibration for everyone, and so, you know, we're just happy to be able to support how we can.
Yeah, and just one last thing. So, sorry, Amber, I see you're trying to jump in. We are offering 10 free licenses to our nonprofit organizations. We have gotten a few to apply. We are going to give preferential treatment to the CLA members. So in your application, if you could just let us know you are a part of CLA. We want to be sure that we are supporting this community, you know, as it is something we are a part of and we want to invest in. And we'll be sure to, you know, support in that partnership and that collaboration is what we're looking for.
We have one last question. Is that $25K per year per integration?
Great question. It's not per integration. We have, like, based on the packages, Ryan, I'm going to let you actually answer this so I can get the exact number right.
No problem at all. It is, yeah, as Nick was kind of getting to, it's by the total amount of integrations. And so the 25K package is actually for anything above 6 integrations. So some of those systems that Nick was pointing to earlier, anything that is, you know, an example of a client they just want everything in there. They want to be able to see, they have a lot of stuff. They find it really useful. They want to be able to see it and see it next to one another. And so anything above 6 and it will fall into that 25K range. But, you know, that's where those tiers come into play. And so for, you know, a lot of clients, maybe they have, you know, just a few systems that they're trying to connect. And we have quite a few who want to see, they want to see everything there. And they have a lot of systems that they want to make sure are kind of front and center when they need them. So that's how that's split out. All
right. Thank you so much, Nick and Ryan, for being here. We really appreciate it. And we hope we can get you some more collaboration going on after this presentation. If anybody wants introductions or needs more information, we'll of course share out notes, and we'll share the video after this, and you'll get the slides, which are always available on our member portal, so you can get everybody's contact information. But also just always ask me if you need an introduction to another member. I'm happy to do that. So great.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next presenters. So our next presenter is Kumara Thompson. She's the Managing Director of Programs and Partnerships for Classroom Inc. At Classroom Inc., Kumara leads the strategic vision for partner acquisition and retention, thought leadership, and professional development, and works to elevate Classroom Inc.'s community of educators across the country. She brings over a decade of experience as a leader, administrator, educator, coach, and mentor on the local, district, state, and national levels. And in her free time, she enjoys traveling, spending time with family and friends, reading, hiking, and biking. Welcome, Kumara.
Great. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Amber. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for getting up early this morning to engage with us and learn a little bit about what we do. So I represent Classroom Inc. And at Classroom Inc., we have a suite of digital literacy learning games called Read to Lead. Our mission is to help middle school youth in high needs communities develop literacy and leadership skills. The way we do that is we create digital literacy learning games and curriculum set in professional world settings. So it's essentially a virtual internship where students can either be running a community service organization, they can be a licensed doctor and running their community health clinic, or they can be editor-in-chief of an online magazine. The game is designed so that educators create learning environments and students take charge of their learning. So they're put in position of being the boss. Across the country, we serve 40,000 youth and 5,000 educators. Chicago is a major region of ours. We've been partnered with Chicago Public Schools, the Archdiocese of Chicago, and quite a few after-school program providers in Chicago for a number of years. And we've been really happy to work with you all here. When students go through our game, there's quite a few benefits. One, of course, is improving their literacy skills. So one episode of gameplay, which is one day at work, actually equals 5,000 words read. It improves student fluency. They get an exposure to a variety of texts. They get greater vocabulary knowledge. So not only do they get to learn different types of vocabulary skills, but they also have knowledge in terms of work context. They get broader knowledge around different experiences that they may or may not already be privy to. So they get to understand a little bit about what it's like to be in the medical profession, what it's like to be a journalist, and most importantly now, given everything that's going on, what is it like to be a community service organization in the middle of a crisis? And all of that leads to improved reading comprehension. If a student continues and plays all 12 of our episodes in one of our games, they've actually read the equivalency of 2 books and don't really even know it. They are managing diverse characters. They have high stakes problems that they have to solve. And so they're really invested in not only the storyline that feels really episodic and dramatic, but they're also really excited to see people who look like them in positions of power. And they get to also make the decisions as well as defend the decisions that they make. As a result of them working in these sort of virtual internship environments, this also improves their life and career skills. In those 30 minutes of playing one game, which is one day of work, they've made 10 decisions. They have to take initiative to manage and assess their learning, and also how to manage and assess their team who have disparate personalities, and so how do they all come together to solve a problem. They have to collaborate and exercise leadership by delegating responsibilities. They build social and cross-cultural skills because everyone in the game is diverse. Their staff is diverse and their communities that they serve and represent, i.e. their clients, are also very diverse. And they have to think critically to identify solutions to the problem. All of this leads to improved decision-making skills. This is basically their virtual office. They have a to-do list that they have to go into, and then they have to go through all 5 tasks. They do this, like I said, by reading through the game, which is why the suite is called Read to Lead. And this is one of our staff members, Sophia, who this is actually her first day of work. So in this particular one, you have to onboard someone, as well as there is an emergency situation where someone has asthma in this particular game. So those are two things that you already have to do. And then the third thing is this larger social context is that one of your employees has seen a pattern of folks coming from the poor side of the community where a power plant was put in and everyone is having all of these respiratory issues. Is there a correlation between social corporate responsibility and the health of poor communities? And so this ignites a larger conversation that really engages the students. And so they can take what they're learning from the game and then of course apply it to real world. Additionally, so that our games are online, and so they obviously lend themselves very well already to our current situation, lending itself really well to the virtual learning environment and the spaces that we currently find ourselves in. Not only do the students have the game and they can self-direct through the game, there are wraparound lessons that you as an educator can use with the students to activate prior learning, to engage the students in collaboration. All of those are what we call Googlefied, so you can send that out through your Google Classroom. So we are connected through Google Classroom pretty easily. If you don't use Google Classroom, you can still do it in Canvas, Nearpod, or any of your other learning management systems. In addition, we also have project-based learning that is available to all folks. So students go through the game and then they have the option of creating a project. That project is about what it is that figuring out a problem that directly affects the students. And then they take the ownership, the initiative to work with a group of friends, a group of peers to come up with a solution, whether that's a public service announcement, whether that's creating their own service organization so they get some entrepreneurship skills as well. And we have all of the materials to help you lead and guide the students through that work. There, you're just the facilitator, is really student-led. In addition to all of those aspects that we had that you can do online. If students do not have access to technology, there is the ability to print out those packets or to just send them out to students via their phone, et cetera, so that they can have access to. So we want to talk about equity and access, and we have to understand that not everybody has access to technology. So there are ways to interact with Read to Lead without having to have a tablet or a cell phone or a computer. So I do want to point that out. Pre-coronavirus and after coronavirus, we are a nonprofit organization, so everything that I'm talking about is free. You can have unlimited educator accounts, unlimited student accounts, and you have access to all of our resources that live on our website, rtlgames.org, for free. After this presentation, feel free to sign up for an account and just play around and see how things are going. In addition, we also are offering quite a few virtual instructional coaching services and supports for free as well. So we are offering quite a bit of building educator capacity. So ensuring that your educators can actually create engaging and robust learning environments for students. How do you actually use this in Google Classroom? So all of those are happening, and we will work with your institutions to set up what makes sense in terms of doing a virtual webinar. And then in terms of what is happening all the time and anyone is invited to, we have our educator lunch and learns that my team of instructional coaches are hosting. Those educational lunch and learns happen every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time and every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time. And I'm happy to drop the Zoom link, or you can send me an email and say that you want to be put on the list so that you can sign up and talk with our instructional coaches. Yes, about Read to Lead, but just in general, how do you do this work to build community, to talk with other educators across the country who are trying to build out these virtual learning environments. In addition, I hold leadership Lunch and Learns every Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. So feel free to meet me there. And that's leaders in the entire educational ecosystem across the country coming together to find moments of joy, to laugh a little, and to also share some best practices. I wanted to also just talk a little bit about some of the equity pieces that are featured in our games. So we have text-to-speech functionality that is available in both English and Spanish. So, so students can have the game read aloud to them in English and in Spanish. In addition, we are connected to Google Translate's API. What that means is that students can translate the game into any native language that is in Google Translate. So by the way, that's hundreds of languages that they can go ahead and have that translated to. The other thing that I think is really important to highlight is actually, we created these games over the last 4 or 5 years. We had no idea, of course, that coronavirus was going to be on board. However, it just so happens to be that our games, Community in Crisis and Vital Signs, are very much aligned to what is happening right now. So in Community in Crisis, you're managing your team during a crisis, a natural disaster that has happened. So you're learning crisis management. So that's a great game to pick. Vital Signs is a game that's around the medical profession. In Vital Signs, actually day one, you're talking about the respiratory issues and you're talking about asthma, social and corporate responsibility. There's other articles related to how do you know that you know, the type of hand sanitizer and the way that you're washing your hands is actually good for you, right? And so we created this a while ago. There's so much content that is relevant right now. And I know that a lot of folks have been saying there's a dearth of this type of content. And so just so you know, Read to Lead actually has it, and we've created it in the past. And so here it is for you to use at your fingertips. And again, like I said, all of that is for free. If you would like to get in touch with me to learn more, or you just, you want a demo or anything else, my email address is ktompson@classroominc.org. And that's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Kumara. We're going to open it up for questions now. I see a lot of people writing that very enthusiastic things. They're excited. They think this is really cool. It is a really cool game. Okay. We have a question. Is there a goal to extend this learning tool to younger students?
So great question. We've actually played around with this idea quite a bit. We made a strategic decision a while ago to really play around in the middle school space because it seemed that the middle school was an area that wasn't getting a lot of attention. There was a lot of attention in high school, a lot for our elementary students, and obviously our pre-K through second grade learners. That being said, we have found that people have been able to use us as low as 3rd and 4th grade, especially in whole groups. So if you have an environment where you're doing some live teaching, this is a really great way to do some role playing. The kids can play different characters, and that's how we've seen folks do it in 3rd and 4th grade.
What's the link for the Tuesday, Thursday Zoom sessions for instructional coaches? Would you be able to?
Great. Yes, I will drop those I'll drop the Zoom link for the educator chats in the chat box, and then I'll drop the Zoom link for the leadership lunch and learns in the chat as well. Does that work, Amber?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Can you talk more about the integration with Google Classroom? Could a teacher or outside program instructor implement this?
Yeah, so in terms of the Google Classroom integration, sort of depends on how you have decided to set up your Google Classroom. So, but basically, you have a login and a platform, and so do the students. In your login and platform, you have your lesson plans and you have the student worksheets. And what you would do is basically send those student worksheets out through your Google Classroom. You can either put them in your Google Drive folder that is for that classroom, or you can go ahead and assign it to the students. Let's say you don't have Google Classroom or you're not using any particular LMS system. On the student side, in their account on their platform, they actually have access to the editable documents, so they can also edit those documents without having to be part of an LMS system.
I have 2 more questions. Is it mobile friendly?
So mobile is not the most ideal environment. We have seen people use it on mobile, and you can in a pinch. The reason being because I have a really tiny phone, but the screens are kind of small, and you want the kids to be able to interact with the entire environment. And there is some writing that is involved, and it just makes it a little sticky. But I have seen classes use this with success, but ideally tablet, laptop, Chromebook, etc.
Okay. And in your experience, how well is this translated for high school kids?
Oh, very well. So we have quite a few high school use cases. I'll just run them through really quickly. As career exploration, folks have done it for reading intervention. So for our students who are in high school, but are reading at a lower grade level, for students that are overage, under accredited. And then we've had quite a bit of success for partnering with districts' L departments and using this as a tool for their L students to do some English integration and other ways to learn English in a more engaging environment.
You know, we have time today because usually we do a different format. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 2 more questions because people are excited about this. So if that's okay with you, Kumara.
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody wanted to know, how is this being incorporated into the curriculum throughout the school day, science, social studies, etc.?
Great question. So generally speaking, the main educators who use us are English language arts educators and those that are technology educators. And they use us roughly twice a week. So an average of 90 to 120 minutes a week will get you through the entire program, which is 12 episodes, plus doing the project pieces. For those folks who are using us, especially in the technology spaces, and we do have some people who use the social studies, health, but that's not always, but sometimes. We do encourage folks to collaborate with the ALA teacher because, and I'm sorry, I forgot to say this part, there's an educator dashboard where all of our episodes are aligned to anchor standards. And so I know that people have been talking about how are we going to grade and assess the work that the kids are actually doing in these virtual environments. Well, this is a way the game will actually differentiate based on where the students are, but it'll also give you a score aligned to an anchor standard that you can use as part of the grading process. But it's a great collaboration tool if you're not the ELA teacher, but you want to use it in your other class, to collaborate with the ELA teacher and say, hey, so-and-so is really rocking out this standard, or they're struggling here. You might want to give them some extra lessons or pull them out in small group.
All right. People are definitely going to check this out, they say. So this is wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kumara. Thanks for joining us. Okay, our third presenter today is Sarah Brant, Vice President of News Literacy Programs for Newsguard. 3 facts about her: she grew up in Minnesota and has been in Chicago the past 3 years. This is true because she gave me recommendations for the Minnesota State Fair that were very helpful. She graduated from Yale, no big deal, with a degree in environmental studies, and her favorite pastime is divvying on the lakefront. Please welcome Sarah.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm not sure how to turn my video on, but if I figure it out, you'll be able to see me. If not, you can hear me.
On the left, do you see?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Oh, well, this will have to do. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thanks for the intro, Amber. If anyone else finds themselves in Minnesota in August and would like some food recommendations at the State Fair, I'm happy to pass them on. So a brief introduction to Newsguard. We are a tool that can arm students against fake news and also help teach media literacy. I say students here, but really it can be useful for anyone, young to old. The way it works is we provide nutrition labels for news to give people more context for the credibility of their sources. So you can think of Newsguard kind of like a fact-checking organization, but instead of evaluating individual articles or claims, we are providing evaluations of sources on the whole. So we're evaluating news and information websites for credibility and transparency. The way it works is it's actually a totally human-driven process. We don't rely on algorithms or AI, but we are a team of journalists from diverse news backgrounds, and we rate the credibility and transparency of thousands of websites using those 9 basic criteria you can see on the right-hand side. So we look at a website and we spend hours researching the website, doing independent research. We ask whether it's a news organization that has repeatedly published false content, whether it uses deceptive headlines, how much information it tells users about itself, or if it's hiding its owners or sources of financing, etc. And then based on how we rate the websites on those 9 criteria, they receive either an overall red rating or green rating to indicate their general trustworthiness. And beyond the overall red and green rating, we write detailed reviews giving background, more context about the source, what its editorial practices are, and for any determination we made in the rating, that's explained in the review as well. So those are the nutrition labels. So the way that you access all of these ratings and reviews is primarily through our browser extension, which is a layer, kind of like a layer of software that you add to your browser, whether it's Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or Safari. And when you have it installed, all of our ratings will integrate with Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So you can see on the screen there, you do a Google search and our red and green icons will show up next to the source, giving you a brief introduction to whether or not this is a source that can generally be relied on for news and information. But if you want to dig deeper beyond just the red and the green, you can hover over that shield and you'll see a window pop up where you'll see a brief description of the source, and then also that breakdown of how it fared on those 9 criteria. And then if you want to dig even deeper and get a richer understanding for the source and who's behind it, you can click to see the full nutrition label and read that thoroughly reported review. So this tool is currently free for everyone. During the pandemic, we dropped the paywall until July 1st. It's always free for public libraries, and we're happy to partner with public libraries, which install it on computers used by patrons and staff. And we also have a school partnership program through which you can apply on our website to bring Newsguard free to your school for the rest of the year. You can learn more on our website, which is there, or you can just contact me directly. That's my email address. Just another visual of how the extension works. So I mentioned, in addition to integrating with Google, it also integrates with Facebook, Twitter, other websites. So if someone shares a suspicious article on Facebook, you can quickly be alerted to the fact that it's maybe one not to be trusted. And this is the way that students can use it, and the way that teachers currently use it is mainly as a research aid. So it helps students learn how to locate credible sources. They learn how to, what the indicators of trustworthiness are that they should be looking for in a source. And recently, really critically, it can help avoid misinformation, and particularly health misinformation. So over the past few weeks, we have been noticing a proliferation of misinformation related to the coronavirus. And we're doing a lot of work to counter that. We're ramping up our efforts of rating the websites that are purveyors of misinformation about coronavirus. And we're providing resources such as we released a list of the top 10 myths about the coronavirus, and debunking those myths, which you can access totally free on our website as well. And we hope it can be useful for people to stay safe and informed during the pandemic. We're really happy to collaborate with other organizations in this space. So I mentioned we partner with public libraries. One of those public libraries that we're really happy to work with is Chicago Public Library. And we're also happy to work with other great organizations in the Chicago area and beyond. So a main way that we collaborate with organizations is by leading media literacy workshops. So we've done that with a fellow CLA member, Literacy Works, also the Chicago Area Writing Project and fellow CLA member, CFE, when we went to we presented at the Chicago Foundation for Education teacher workshops, and always happy to do more workshops with other organizations or even collaborate or partner in different ways. And then finally, just to touch on challenges and opportunities. One challenge is just building awareness. We're a relatively new company and we've only been doing this for 2 years. So just wanting to spread the word that this exists, that this is a service that can help counter misinformation and help restore trust in the media and help build media literacy. And then opportunities, Newsguard can be helpful for you, your students, your family, and it's totally free. Like I said, until July 1st, you can just go to our website and download the extension from there. And again, another opportunity just to collaborate on different media literacy programs. So I'm happy to take any questions right now.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
We do have a question. Somebody wants to know, may I ask the funding source of this tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our criteria, and I can start my video now, so I'll do that. So one of our criteria asks that websites be upfront about their sources of funding. So we try to do the exact same thing. If you go on our website, you can see our list of investors, which includes individuals, the Knight Foundation, which invests heavily in journalism programs, among other organizations. The way we make ongoing revenue is we license our ratings and reviews to different tech companies. So for example, Microsoft is integrating our ratings into some of their platforms. And the way we're able to provide this free to libraries and select schools is through sponsorship of our news literacy programs. So Microsoft is sponsoring our news literacy programs, as well as Oscar Health, which is a new healthcare startup, which is particularly interested in our work to combat health misinformation.
Awesome. You said it's free until July 1st. Is there a paid version required to continue using in K through 12 after that date?
Yeah, so after July 1st, we are offering a school partnership program through the rest of 2020, through which schools can get Newsguard for free throughout the rest of the calendar year. After that point, there is a fee associated for a school to license it for all of their students. That would be currently $1 per student per year. What we're really hoping, though, is that we'll find different EdTech partners in this space that will integrate Newsguard into tools that schools are already using, so schools can have access to our ratings that way.
The extension browser, or the browser extension, is free for everyone, though, right? Anyone can add that?
Currently, yes, but there is a small subscription fee associated with that after July 1st.
Okay, that's how that's working. Got it. Thank you. Any other questions for Sarah? That might be it right now. That was super interesting, and we really need your help right now with everything going on with coronavirus. So I'm sure you folks are working very diligently.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Great.
how much is the fee going to be?
Oh, sure. So for individuals who want to download the extension, it's a subscription fee of $2.95 per month. And that's for access to our extension, but also our mobile apps, which we're releasing soon. But then there's a different school licensing fee.
Great. All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you all.
Our next presenter is Mitch Schneider, CEO and founding member of STRUT Learning. 3 interesting facts. He is part of a 15-member volunteer social venture team. Their focus is social-emotional learning technology. And Mitch has played more online board games with his family than he's played regular board games. Welcome, Mitch.
Thank you, Amber. And that continues to happen as well. We're playing headbands, I think, tonight. So first, I just want to thank CLA and everyone else for being here. I really appreciate this option to be able to present a little bit more about the tools that the community can really leverage during this time. The question we are trying to answer is if technology truly meets the needs of today's extremely diverse learners. At STRUT, we're working to codify happiness, finding out how can we make that happen, and learning through emotionally intelligent adaptive technologies. What does that mean? We essentially want to make learning faster, healthier, and more meaningful. To us, it's not just about the academics, it's also about the whole child. I'm Mitch. I'm a developer, educator, and serial entrepreneur. And I'm proud to represent a team of 15 volunteers. Yes, we're all volunteers at our social impact startup. Let me highlight 2 thoughts about technology and education. We know that technology is a powerful tool that brings many advances. However, you might not know that still presently, technology has not been proven to scientifically increase academics. We know it increases access and personalized learning and things like that, but it's not yet increased academics. And despite technology advancing so many different areas of productivity and customization, our mental health and specialized needs have actually gone in the opposite direction. You can see here, cyberbullying is actually increasing. You can see suicide attempts. College preparedness is actually going down. The only proven solution that addresses these issues from academic, emotion, behavior, social, and career success is social emotional learning. I'm not sure if everybody's heard about that, but it's a very big term in the education sector. It's essentially the process of developing emotional intelligence. And you can see here some of the various benefits. About 10% higher in academic scores, self-efficacy, reduction in negative behavior, but it has a lifelong impact. For us, one of the first things that we're trying to address while we build several tools to help students learn better is to address the #1 issue within social emotional learning in schools, and that is the lack of assessment. How can you implement a program, and how can you adapt to that program and see progress without measuring how students are doing? So we created a free forever online assessment, and it's pretty complex. It follows all the CASEL standards, but you can see here that less than 16% of schools use an assessment, and most of it's all research-based as opposed to educator and school-based or community-based. You can access our tool. I think you'll be getting copies of our presentation at eq123.org. I can do a mini demo at the end if we have time, but essentially you log in and we have access for child and parent, for student and teacher, or just for regular adults as well. It follows all the academic and research and CASEL standards. It was initiated and continues to be supported by educators, SEL experts, and data scientists. And we not only look at the 5 competencies of SEL, but we added motivation as well. And we went further and we break that down into 18 sub-competencies. So it's one of the most detailed and comprehensive assessments. Again, it's free forever. You just essentially go to the eq123.org, create an account. We collect no personal information. All you need is an email and password. For teachers, we need to make sure that you're actually a teacher, and principal, the same thing. And you can get started in probably about 30 seconds. This is just a screenshot of what the student's view would be like. For students, we ask 1 question at a time. For adults who can handle a little bit more information at the same time, we ask multiple questions. For adults, we randomize the questions. For children, we don't. And essentially at the end, you get a score of what the highest 3 ratings are for your SEL and what the area that you could improve upon. And then you get it broken down into much more detail if you want to look at that. For us, we believe that IQ without EQ is not enough. And the question we want to answer, besides just about how to make technology better, we want to know, what would the world be like if everybody was 10% happier? Amber?
Hi, thank you so much. I'd like to know that too. Let's open it up to questions. I have one to start out.
Sure.
So how do you, like, what is the main research that you use on social emotional learning to build like the questions and build out what is really the content of your quizzes and your program?
Sure. So social emotional learning is academic, and it's been led by researchers at Castle who came from Yale University and University of Illinois. So we use their research, but their research sort of starts and stops. It starts at one point, but we actually go much further. We look at emotional intelligence, the theories behind it. And so there's actually about 6 different research areas that we look at, primarily emotional intelligence, neurology, cognitive psychology, those kind of different areas. And right now, this one is a self-assessment, so an individual takes it, but there's also data triangulation to make it more valid. So a teacher can also take it, a parent can also take it. So now you have 3 scores on this one child. So that way you can see, okay, do we all have the same perception, or is there a big difference between them? So that's really important. Also, again, this is free forever. It's our first version. It's online right now. We're creating a second one that allows principals and district leaders to get involved and add those other tools as well, like Spanish and a practice session, help videos, stuff like that. We want to make sure we support all learners. And in the summer, we might even look at like color blindness and visual auditory limitations as well. So for me personally, I've probably read 500 academic research articles on this, everything from errors, on how assessments happen. If you look at most research assessments, they're just one long form. Well, we know that children can't process that kind of information. You know, the previous question might influence the next one. So we're doing one question at a time. And then we bring in sort of the technology part, UX, UI. So when a child answers a question, it automatically advances. Why do they have to answer the question and then click next? Stuff like that. So we bring in technology, SEL, emotional intelligence, cognitive behavioral psychology, neurology.
Nice. Is there data on how this impacts the person who has been assessed?
No, because not yet. We are going to be running, we're hoping to run 3 academic studies with schools this fall. And, you know, that takes a long time to get all those academic credentials. We're partnering with universities and with schools. We already have that already established. And these are going to be, you know, PhD level research studies that measure how does it impact the teacher, how does it impact the student. And also the one limitation about our assessment is that at the end, you need about 20 to 40,000 students participating before you can fully assess the validity of the questions. But one of our differentiation pieces is that, one, you know, we're entirely free. Second, it's all digital. You don't have to calculate everything on paper, and that takes like hours for teachers to calculate. It happens right away. But in addition to that, we're organically created after the Castle model. No other assessment is done that. There's only about 5 assessments that follow Castle model, but they basically re-engineered the ones that they already had. We actually started from scratch. We actually went and looked at all the research studies by Castle and looked at what words they used the most, you know, and the frequency of words. And that helped us determine what we thought was the most important.
Great.
Sure.
If an after-school program used this, would we be able to have our program leaders sign on as teachers and use it the same way?
Absolutely. Again, this is free for everybody. We always say free forever because we don't want it to be a freemium model. It's entirely free. And all the features that we're increasing, those will also be free, the next version. So how are we going to pay for that? You know, we're trying to get sponsorships and partnerships and stuff like that. And we have other tools that we're creating as well that we might charge a small fee for, but not this. And so, yes, you can sign up as a principal, a teacher, whatever you want. Obviously, a teacher would be in control of more of just one class or a couple classes. A principal would be in charge of multiple teachers. So you can sign up for the level that you want. Now, the one restriction that we have, or that's going to be happening in version 2, is that for teachers and principals, we ask that you have a .edu or .org address, because we just don't want somebody to try to, you know, create a classroom and then put it out online and then say, hey, you know, we're a teacher and we want you to take this for free. And they're really trying to capture information. So there's that limitation. But if you happen to be with a school or nonprofit that does use .com, you just have to message us and we'll verify your credentials, and then we'll be happy to give you access to that.
Great. How does the student self-guided lessons, how does that part work?
So For the registration part, for an adult, it's literally an email and a password. For a teacher and school staff, it's a little bit more. We want to know what school you go to, and we have that all listed. Again, just to verify, it's about security. And then same thing for privacy and information, we take that extremely serious. And so we collect no personal data. The email is about it. We don't ask for names even. We don't collect your IP address. We don't collect your device type. We purposely purge all that information. Even myself as a founder, I don't have access to the email addresses. So we take data security extremely seriously. Now, in terms of for kids, we don't allow them to create accounts. Now, they could come in as an adult, I guess, and do that, but we don't allow them to create accounts. So typically a parent would create that account for the student, for the child, or a teacher would create that for the child. And so I can just go over and just show you for 1 second. Can you see my screen? Am I still sharing?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what the dashboard would look like. And if you want to if you're a parent, you can just go to assess your child. And then here you can add a new child. And again, it's just an email and password. So pretty simple. You then have different children listed. You could start the survey, you could delete them, stuff like that. And parents have access to everything. So these are the assessments that if you were in every role, these are the assessments as an adult that I took about myself. You can see all the past results and things like that. You can also so another thing that's really important for kids is, if they log off, they click the X and the window shuts down, they can always continue back where they left off. These are the assessments about a student. So these are, you can see that each student was different, and I can see the parents version, I can see the teacher's version and the student version if I'm the teacher. And again, here's the ones that I can see on my child. So everything is here. And for a teacher, it's a little bit more complex, but most teachers are pretty familiar with adding classes. So you'd create a new class, you could add a student to a class, you could modify different classes and stuff like that. We never intended to have to build a whole platform for teachers and everybody, but when we went out there and talked to people, they really loved this idea just because, wait, I don't have to pay for an assessment. Oh, it's the most modern one. Oh, I don't have to calculate all the data and all that kind of stuff, and you're just giving it to me. And then when we were out there, the SEL director said, hey, well, we want access to it. Oh, and then the principal said, we want access to it. And for us, since there's no credit card involved, we had to build different ways that we can make it simple, but yet provide data security. So, that's why sometimes there's just one more step, but that's really because we have no information about who you are, and we just don't want anybody accessing somebody else's information.
Yeah. Who is currently implementing the assessment?
Right now, so our first version is out there. It's more just an alpha test. It works for teachers, adults, and students and child, not for principals and those district level staff. But the next one's already being developed. You can see that we have practice right here. You can take practice screens, and this steps you through each screen, so you can't really make any mistakes. It just teaches you how do we even use it. We have audio, text to speech, narration, stuff like that. There's a lot more features that are being built in terms of. And then the recommendations right here, we're working to significantly increase the recommendations. The SEL director said, we need to have a lot more to indicate, how does it impact the class? How does it impact the child? If we do this, if we don't do this, how does it work overall? We are talking to the Chicago Teachers Union Foundation. We're partnering with them. Obviously, things have gotten a little bit difficult with the coronavirus, with distinctive charter schools as well. We have a couple of CPS schools, but again, this is just the first version. It's more intended for people to use it and get the data and try it out, but it's not fully designed for implementation yet. The second version will, and then the third version this summer, which will be done by end of August. That will have as many features as you could possibly imagine. But yes, we do have individuals and schools using it. Again, we don't have any contracts because it's entirely free. We don't want to know who you are per se.
That makes sense. I wouldn't want people to know my social emotional intelligence.
Yes, there you go.
Well, this was great. This is so interesting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amber. Thanks, CLA. And it's really been enjoyable to learn about the other groups as well. I've already had a couple team members email me and say, hey, how come we don't know this group? And should we contact them and partner? And it's like, hey, go for it. That's awesome. So thank you.
I'm so glad. I hope it creates some real partnerships for you. That's wonderful. All right. We have one last presenter. Our last presenter is Adam Bevan. He's the CEO of Youtoring. With a background in teaching English in London, Adam founded Youtoring with the core mission of optimizing virtual reality for educational use. He has consulted on and delivered extended reality XR projects to schools and organizations on 4 continents, and his passion remains in improving education for all students through holistic methods that include academics, global citizenship, and social-emotional learning. Hi, Adam. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much for having me today, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the lockdown and discovering new hobbies that you can do from home. As you can see, people who know me, one of my new hobbies has been to grow a beard. And I'm also like Mitch, that I have been playing a lot more board games since the lockdown started. So for those of you that have heard of Youtoring before, you'll know that we specialize mostly in virtual reality education. But before I isolate about 99% of my audience, I do just want to say that what I'm going to talk to you about today is a sort of a literacy program that could be implemented using laptops, tablets, or even old school methods like pen and paper, worksheets, things like that. If you have any other questions from what I talk about today, please do feel free to get in contact with me, adam@youtoring.com. We'd love to hear more about challenges that you face in implementing EdTech, and we are very much consultative. So whether it's using one of our solutions or simply pointing you in the right direction for a solution that works for you, we just want to add value wherever we can. So we, as Amber said generously in her introduction, have been working with partners on 4 continents already, which is fantastic because it means I get to travel a lot as part of my work, which I love. Today, I'm going to mostly be speaking about the impact that we're having more locally. So in schools in the Archdiocese, such as St. Philip Neri Catholic School and also West Orange School District. But I will also be mentioning Enseña por Argentina, with some of the work we're doing with them, the Railway Children, which is a large NGO that we work with, and analytic measures as well, and the work we're doing with them. So as you can imagine, literacy is an enormous topic, and there's tons of things that I'd love to talk to you about. But they say that within every long presentation, there's a short presentation trying to work its way out. So I'm going to try my best to keep this as short as possible. But again, if you'd like to talk to me about how EdTech can be used effectively to boost any area of literacy, I'd love to hear from you. Today, we're going to be focusing on comprehension and how we can build out better comprehension skills using EdTech, both virtual reality EdTech, but also using browser-based services. And we're going to focus particularly on how using EdTech in that way can build out a deeper empathy, understanding of different perspectives on key issues, things like that. And for that reason, it's not only going to be discussing comprehension in the sort of traditional academic style of building literacy skills in students, but we're also going to be thinking about global citizenship. One interesting study found that about 85 to 90% of students, when they're shown an assortment of random faces, will tend to relate or choose faces that look similar to their own. But through one of the methods that I'm talking to you about today, we found that once people got to understand the perspectives of other peoples from other cultures and their struggles and their commonalities with each other, then that diminished down to only around 20% of students. And they started to understand that they have a lot more in common with people who don't look like them. So that's a really positive thing we want to encourage with this literacy tool. And it also will tie in somewhat to social emotional learning, because what we're going to be talking about is putting students into a situation or a scenario where they have to think about their own personal core values and how they would respond or react when those core values are challenged in some certain way. So don't worry, today's not going to be talking about the complexities of virtual reality, even though I do love talking about that stuff. And we are becoming very adaptable at Youtoring. So particularly in the current climate, we realize that most people don't have virtual reality headsets. So we're adapting and making sure that the tools that we're talking about today are going to be accessible on mobile, on tablets, on laptops, and on PCs very, very soon. So please don't feel intimidated by the idea that everything I'm talking about is purely for people who have VR. It's not. It's meant to be accessible to everyone, and it will be very, very soon. So we're converting all of our 3D into 2D coming soon. So what we've actually built at Youtoring is effectively a platform that allows educators to build any experience that they would want to within, at the moment, a VR headset, but as I said, soon a laptop environment or tablet as well. So any media that you want, whether it be 3D video, 2D video, can be put into our environment for students to watch and observe. And what we can then do on top of that is we can add certain interactivities to that. So you can add imagery, you can add text, you can add voiceover, and to make sure that the students are actually responding to it, you can also include multiple choice questions, or indeed even verbal questions within the experiences. So students have an opportunity to voice their opinions and to choose answers. And what that then outputs is effectively a cloud-based amount of data from the students, which can then yield some really interesting analytics to allow teachers and educators to understand what their students have taken away. The way that we've built the platform out is very adaptable as well. So depending on which analytics you would like, there are stock analytics that can be taken to be used for your classroom, or you can even request to have certain key analytics and things recorded for you, depending on your unique classroom culture and your unique needs. So this is roughly what the workflow might look like, and I want you to be thinking about this not only in terms of virtual reality, of course, but conventional video players, and even thinking about literally pictures that you could print out on a printer if you'd like, or show on a screen. It can work in those mediums as well. So the premise is that students will have some kind of enhancement of their knowledge of a certain subject through having an experience, whether it's looking at a picture, looking at 2D video, or indeed having a VR headset on and being exposed to a whole different world, second reality, as we say. They then will have a sort of physical manifestation of their thoughts and feelings about what they've seen, which are prompted by your questions in the experience. So they get to reflect on their learning and reflect on how it makes them think and feel in those different scenarios. And then, of course, we also want to enhance a social aspect to this. So there is an element of sharing. The sharing at the moment is done very much face-to-face, or perhaps through something like this, so that students can speak through a medium like Zoom or Google Hangouts, things like that. As we grow, we are looking to build that into our system further as well, so they can share whilst they're in the headset or whilst they're using our platform on a tablet. And as I said, all of this data is collected so that students' answers can be monitored by the teacher to see what they've got out of it. So to give you a concrete example of how this might work, I will post a link to one of our videos in the chat if you wanted to check that out at some point. This is a 2D version of a 3D video we took in Mwanza, Tanzania, partnering with Railway Children, and it's focused on the lives of street-connected children in Mwanza in Tanzania. So a student would put the headset on or watch the video in 2D, and they would reflect on the lives of the street-connected children in this other part of the world. And after that, you, as the teacher, could go down many different pathways, asking many different questions depending on what you're trying to prompt your student to think or feel. You could talk about, there is an angry man in the video who's talking about how we shouldn't be helping street-connected children and they should fend for themselves. So you could do questions that are talking about that perspective and trying to get students to try and comprehend how someone could think something so mean about people that are so vulnerable and need support. You could think about of obviously more positive aspects. You could think about the resilience of what the students are seeing in the street children in that position, and you know, the admiration they might feel for these children who have been born into unfortunate circumstances but are still resilient and trying to work for a better future. And you could also foster self-reflection, so you could think about what the student would do, what actions they would take if they were placed in the position of someone that they were observing in that video. So we're very much thinking about how you can comprehend scenarios from different perspectives using this technology. And this could be a lovely lead into a larger literacy program or project in a school scenario. So given this particular example, based on the fact that the setting is in Africa, it could be a lead into some African literature, something like a Chibi or a Dichi, or indeed many others. It could also be a lead into creative writing projects or other creative outlets. So imagining one particular perspective from the video that they've seen and trying to reflect on that. And we want to focus on the higher order thinking skills from Bloom's taxonomy in terms of the pedagogy of this. So on the lowest end, of course, there is a level of comprehension to this, understanding the situation that they're seeing, but the literacy skills that we're trying to foster mostly are analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So the ability of the ability of the students to be able to break down what they're seeing and process it, to synthesize what it would feel like to be in that position, for example, to evaluate and make judgments on what they're seeing and how they would react and things like that. And I think this is probably why a lot of the literature suggests that the this form of building literacy, this immersive form, has a very high success rate and progresses students very quickly. There's also a lot of data to suggest that the more emotionally connected a student is to their learning, the more memory, the more that they will retain in terms of memory from that. And I just want to finish by talking about a couple of other things and then our offerings. So one thing that we're looking to do as soon as possible is to develop speech recognition into this as well. So students can actually speak to the VR, and the VR will be able to lead them down different pathways, or indeed if they're on a tablet, we'd like that to work too. That's some work we're doing with analytic measures. And we're definitely looking for anyone to help us to translate this into Spanish and indeed to other languages as quickly as possible, so it's more accessible, especially to help with the work that we're doing with Enseña. So if anyone has any contacts, that would be brilliant. I think Kumara mentioned about using Google Translate as an API endpoint. So I'll actually definitely be looking at that. So I just want to thank Kumara for mentioning that as one potential solution. So what we're offering to our members here today is effectively a platform that we're offering completely for free at the moment. At the moment, it is only in 3D, but we are very quickly turning that into a 2D solution. So if that's something you're interested in getting, we would be happy to work with you. Just feel free to email me and we can send you links and details. And please let us know what you're looking to achieve with the technology, because then we can help you further and give you the correct information. And what we're asking for in return, if possible, please, is just further participation in this program. We'd love to get more people using it. We'd love to get the feedback, vital feedback from you about what's working, what's not working. As I said, the way we've built this is very flexible. So if things aren't working, we can change it very quickly. We can add extra analytics and things like that. Please spread the word if you think that this maybe isn't something for you but could work with someone you're partnered with. We'd love to hear from them too. As I said, we'd love to translate this into Spanish and other languages as quickly as possible, particularly to support ELL learners. And at the moment, what we're doing, as I said, is offering this for free. As things expand out and we're looking at putting this into more organizations, we'd also love to hear about more options for funding. If you happen to have any partners that might look to fund underserved schools to be able to put this sort of technology in, we're happy to work with them. And we are at a pretty affordable price point as it is, because we want this to get out to as many people as we physically can. And I think that's basically it. So thanks for listening. They say after 5 minutes, if you haven't struck oil, then stop boring. So hopefully that hasn't been too boring for you. Thanks very much.
I like your sayings throughout, Adam. The one about there's a meeting trying to come out of a 5-minute meeting trying to emerge from your meeting. I can't remember what the one was.
There's a small meeting trying to get out of every long meeting. The problem, I tend to talk too much, so I was trying to keep it as concise as I could.
Sorry, that's my sync. So let's do some questions here. This is our last Q&A. So let's get that going. Folks, add your questions to the Q&A box preferably. That was super interesting. I've used your headset before and it was fascinating. That was my first experience with VR ever. Is the group that you're partnering with in Argentina, is that a group of schools or what is Enseña?
So Enseña is a large charity which tries to keep students in Argentina that are at risk of leaving school early in school. And so they focus on bringing engaging education to those at-risk students. And they've had a lot of success with keeping kids in school, basically, because in Argentina, particularly around Buenos Aires, those students that don't stay in school often end up in less than favorable situations post school.
Sure. Jim Burnett would like to know if you could talk a little more about the VR experience.
Sure. Okay. So the VR experience itself is effectively an immersive video that you will be exposed to while you're in the headset. And then we have something called head-up displays, which will come up. So that will be where the questions and answers and other media will show during the video. So for example, with the video I mentioned with street connected children, you'll sort of be right there in Mwanza, Tanzania. And as the experience goes on and you're experiencing elements of the lives of these street connected kids, certain audio will come in so that you can sort of hear voiceover or certain key things. Text can pop up and questions can pop up while you're in the headset. And one other thing worth mentioning, I suppose, which we think is really cool, is the way that teachers create is they actually create in the headset as well. So rather than having to try and code or something that many people don't have the skills to do, they literally can be in the headset and adding this text and audio and questions along the way while they're actually building out the experience for their kids. So it's quite fun for them as well.
Nice. How are you working with St. Philip's School in Chicago?
Great question. So St. Philip Neri is one of our pilot schools, and we're actually developing out quite literally these programs that I've been speaking about today. So exposing the middle school students at St. Philip Neri to different parts of the world, different experiences, and then having them reflect on how, creating writing, as I said, reading certain books or extracts based on that. But it's a lot more than that. So outside of literacy, there's also a numeracy program to help them with their math. There's a science program. So basically, the message is anything that you want to build, you can build using our platform.
Nice. In case a teacher or student doesn't have access to a headset, you mentioned that there was a paper and pen kind of style. Could you elaborate how that would be in practice?
Absolutely, sure. So the way that would work, Colin, is basically instead of having a video that you show the students, what you could do is have a picture that you show the students, which is particularly emotive or makes the student reflect in a certain way about something that they're seeing on the page. And then you can ask leading questions to the students about the scenario you're giving them. So to take my example again, but to turn it into that paper form, you would have a picture perhaps of a street connected child in a certain scenario. So that would be the paper version. You would then ask the students, what emotions do you think that child might be feeling in this photo? Or if you were there with this child, what might you do? Or if you were this child, what might you do? So you're thinking about different perspectives based on the image. And those leading questions will still be enabling the student to think in those higher order type skills. They'll still be having to synthesize ideas, use empathy, think about the scenario that they're exposed to, without the need of any technology at all. The benefit of the technology is that it allows multiple students at the same time to have the same experience, to collaborate on that, and the data to be collected by the teacher, so the teacher can reflect on how effective that learning has been, which might be a little bit more difficult when it's pen and paper, or a little bit more time consuming.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any one-off workshops with groups, or must this be an ongoing program?
So we are looking to do a summer program actually this summer, and I'm glad someone brought that up because I would have completely forgotten to mention it. So again, if a summer program or an hour would be something of interest to you, we're looking to do a physical program somewhere in Chicago this summer once the lockdown is over, but also to do it as a virtual thing if needs be. One other thing, CLA very kindly said that in the future, once this lockdown is over, if anyone's interested in having a demonstration of this, then we can orchestrate that as well. So obviously we don't know when that date will be, but I've been speaking with Erin about doing that once we're able to go face to face, and I'll even bring the headsets along so you can have a go and try this for yourselves and see what you think.
Nice. Thank you, Adam. That was so interesting.
Right, thank you.
Today, appreciate it. That concludes our confab, but before you leave the room, I just have a few important pieces of information. First, I want to say thank you so much to both our presenters and attendees for making this an engaging event. I think we should be pretty excited that we're able to do confab virtually and still have it be so engaging. And I think this was the perfect topic to do it with, so we got lucky. Thank you for being a part of it, everyone, and showing up. We will follow up to share the video recording of this confab, and as always, notes and resources from past programs are available to members in the member portal. Mark your calendars. As you see, our next confab is on May 20th. We'll be discussing college and career pathways. And more immediately, if you are a member, just want to make sure everyone knows that every Thursday we host a CLA town hall at 11:30 a.m., which we encourage you to join to get all the latest updates on the CLA and the Literate Center. And then the same day, every Thursday, we have a virtual happy hour at 4:30. I usually go to that. Come hang out with me. We just socialize and have fun. And links to join these Thursday events are always posted in the member portal on the events page. You see that little stacked book thing that's right on the member portal. And that's it. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and thank you again for joining us. Take care, everybody.